Hello, welcome to another something tweedy video. It's not really heavily raining, but I thought I would set up a quick tarp just for fun. I've used that branch once before and that worked pretty well, I think. There we go. It's not great, but it will meet my simple needs. Well, it's not really the weather for sparkling wine, but it is a Friday evening just, and this is my traditional time of the week to celebrate the end of the misery of having to work by opening a bottle of fizz. Just took delivery today of a mixed case from Breaky Bottom. Quite possibly, I may have said this about others, but quite possibly my favourite English sparkling wine of all. Not just because the wine is spectacular, but also because the owner is an absolute character. Peter Hall, fascinating, very entertaining, very funny man, and a genius, a wizard in the winemaking and viticulture department. Tiny vineyard, 6 acres. Actually, maybe I can cut to I might have an old bit of footage I could briefly cut to. Breaky Bottom, peering over the brow of this hill. Six acres vineyard in the middle of the South Downs. What a beautiful spot. It's often quoted as being England's most beautiful vineyard, and hopefully that tiny little glimpse of the site appearing over the brow of a hill is very close to has somehow given you a sense of that. It's very close to the South Downs Way, so there's a sort of running theme between this and Exton Park that I was drinking early this week. So without further babbling, let's get that open. Of course, I'm in a public park. Sabrage in this sort of context just never seems appropriate, so I'm going to open it the boring way, I'm afraid. Seems to be under control. Peter releases typically 2, sometimes 3 wines every year. This is from his 2013 releases, and every individual wine is named after an illustrious friend of his. And this is Cuvée Cornelis Hendriksen, and this is from 2013. Breaky Bottom started as a purely or mostly Seyval Blanc vineyard, and this was this sort of I want to say Germanic grape, but I think it actually originates from America, and it seemed to be quite well adapted to the English climate in the early days of English wine, and we couldn't really get the champagne grapes to fly, or at least we hadn't tried hard enough. And later Peter also planted the champagne varieties, so Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. I don't know, does he have any Pinot Meunier? Maybe he has Pinot Meunier as well. And normally, if he releases, or at least in recent years, of the 2 to 3 cuvées he releases in a given vintage, typically one is based on Seyval Blanc and another is based on the classic champagne varieties, Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. This is unusual in that it's actually a mix of all of them. Sometimes in a small vineyard you probably have to make compromises now and again, and it may have been that this was a difficult year, 2013, I don't remember, and he perhaps had to throw the lot into one single wine to get a decent outturn. I'm actually getting quite a lot of the Seyval character here. I'm not sure what the percentages are. Those can come across as slightly sort of grassy, slightly herbaceous, and then that sort of blends into the sort of lemony, citrusy, appley character from the Chardonnay, and there's a sort of creamy character to it. Hint of bitterness, quite a lot of complexity there and interest. Some of the more recent wines from Peter are really lively and vibrant, exuberant. This is a bit more sort of pensive, complex, has undertones. It's interesting, nuanced, slightly reminiscent of some of Dermot Segrew's own label wine. I think they're good friends, Dermot Segrew and Peter Hall. Segrew South Downs to me is often characterised by sort of bitter complexity, and I'm getting a few notes of that here. Found the grape breakdown. It is 46% Chardonnay, 40% Seyval Blanc, 7% Pinot Noir, 7% Pinot Meunier. So only really tiny Pinot influence there. It is very much a sort of, largely a half and half-ish Seyval and Chardonnay hybrid. So that's where you get those sort of, grassy, herbaceous notes plus sort of citrusy kind of character. But then with a fair bit of autolytic depth. Quite creamy, quite sort of brioche-y, bready. Felt like the camera was maybe too close. You weren't getting the full tarp effect. This is absolutely delightful. Sitting in the rain, under a tarp, having some English sparkling from one of my favourite vineyards. Wonderful, really, really nice. Very quiet on the heath thanks to the rain. Most people run a mile as soon as the weather starts to turn a bit inclement, which is all the nicer for me. Cheers, hope you have a great weekend.